There comes a day when the tears stop asking for permission. The pain no longer whispers. It speaks. It shakes your heart. It steals your sleep. It tests your faith. People will see your smile. They will never know the battles you fought just to wear it. They will call you lucky. They will never count the nights you spent rebuilding yourself from pieces no one else could see. Listen carefully. Your hardship is not the end of your story. It's the fire, and you are becoming the woman who cannot be burned. Life has a strange way of introducing greatness, not through comfort, not through applause, not through easy victories. It introduces greatness through storms. Every disappointment teaches you something success never could. Every betrayal forces you to discover your own value. Every closed door reminds you that your destiny does not belong in someone else's hands. A woman becomes extraordinary the moment she stops asking why this happened to me and starts asking, what is this preparing me for? Because healing is not forgetting. Healing is remembering without breaking. Healing is carrying the scars without carrying the chains. That is where true strength begins. Do not confuse what happened to you with who you are. There is a difference, a painful difference. Life may have wounded you, but it did not define you. People may have spoken words that pierced your confidence, but their voices were never meant to become your identity. What happened to you is a chapter. It is not the entire book. It is an experience. It is not your name. They abandoned you, but you are not abandonment. You are not the empty chair they left behind. You are not the unanswered phone call. You are not the silence that followed their departure. Their inability to stay says far more about their character than it ever will about your worth. Some people walk away because they cannot recognize the value standing in front of them. That does not reduce your value. It only reveals their blindness. They criticized you, but you are not criticism. People will always have opinions. They will judge your dreams before they understand your journey. They will question your strength because they have never carried the weight you have carried. Do not allow their limited vision to become the mirror through which you see yourself. A woman who measures herself by the approval of others will never discover the power already living inside her. They broke your heart, but you are not broken. A broken heart is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your awakening. Sometimes your heart must break open before your spirit can grow stronger. Sometimes what feels like destruction is actually making room for something greater. You survived the heartbreak. You survived the disappointment. You survived the loneliness. That alone is proof that there is more strength inside you than you have ever given yourself credit for. Too many women spend years wearing labels placed on them by people who never understood their worth. Weak, too emotional, not enough, too much, difficult, impossible to love. Those words were never your identity. They were opinions spoken by people who viewed you through the lens of their own fears, insecurities, and limitations. Stop carrying labels that were never yours to wear. Take those labels off. Take off the shame. Take off the guilt. Take off the fear. Take off every lie that has convinced you that you are less than enough. Stand before your own reflection and remember who you were before the world tried to convince you otherwise. You are not your mistakes. Mistakes are lessons dressed in disappointment. Every woman who has accomplished something meaningful has stumbled. Every strong woman has failed. Every wise woman has made decisions she wishes she could change. The difference is not that they never failed. The difference is that they refuse to let failure become their permanent address. You are not your failures. Failure is an event. It is never an identity. The strongest women in this world are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who rise every single time life knocks them to the ground. Every time you choose to stand again, you become stronger than the woman you were yesterday. You are not your past. Your past may explain you, but it does not own you. It may have shaped your journey, but it does not decide your destination. You still have the power to choose who you become. You are still writing your story, and the next chapter can be stronger than the last. You are a soul still growing. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes it happens quietly in the moments when no one is watching. It happens every time you choose hope instead of bitterness, every time you forgive yourself, every time you refuse to quit. Growth is often invisible until one day you look back and realize you are no longer the woman who once cried over the things that no longer have power over you. You are a heart still beating. As long as your heart beats, there is another opportunity to heal. Another opportunity to dream, another opportunity to begin again. Your story is still unfolding, and every sunrise is evidence that life has not finished with you yet. You are a spirit still rising. That is your greatest victory, not that life has been easy. Not that every prayer has already been answered, but that despite every storm, every betrayal, every disappointment, and every moment when giving up seemed easier than moving forward, you are still here. Every scar carries a lesson. Every lesson carries wisdom. Every piece of wisdom becomes another brick in the foundation of an unstoppable woman. Do not hide your scars. Honor them. They remind you that pain visited your life, but it did not take your future. They remind you that you bent without breaking. They remind you that resilience is not something you were born with. It is something you earned. Stop apologizing for surviving. You do not owe anyone an apology for choosing yourself. You do not owe anyone an apology for protecting your peace. You do not owe anyone an apology for healing at your own pace. Stop shrinking because someone else was uncomfortable with your light. The world does not need a smaller version of you. It needs the courageous woman who has learned to stand tall after every storm. The woman you are becoming has no room for shame, only growth, only purpose, only truth. And every step you take toward embracing who you truly are is another declaration that your pain may have shaped your journey, but it will never define your identity. People believe healing is beautiful. They imagine peaceful mornings, smiling faces, and a heart that suddenly feels whole again. They think healing arrives like the sunrise, quiet, gentle, and effortless. Sometimes it does, but most of the time, it is messy. Healing is not a straight road. It twists, it turns, it surprises you. There are days when you feel stronger than ever before, convinced that the pain is finally behind you. Then one memory, one familiar song, one unexpected conversation, or one place you haven't visited in years brings every emotion rushing back, and suddenly you wonder if you have made any progress at all. You have. Healing is not about never feeling the pain again. Healing is about discovering that the pain no longer controls your life. Healing means crying without knowing why. There will be moments when tears fall before words can form. You may not even understand what your heart is trying to release. Do not fight those moments. Your tears are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that your heart is finding the courage to let go of what it has carried for too long. Healing means walking away from what once felt like home. Sometimes the hardest goodbye is not to a place. It is to a version of yourself. The woman who accepted less than she deserved. The woman who stayed silent to keep everyone else comfortable. The woman who believed she had to earn love by sacrificing herself. You must be willing to leave that version behind, not because she was weak, but because she has carried you as far as she could. Now it is time to become someone stronger. Healing means choosing peace over familiar pain. There is something strangely comfortable about pain you already know. Familiar hurt can feel safer than unfamiliar freedom. Many people remain where they are wounded, simply because they fear the unknown more than the suffering they have learned to survive. But you were never created to merely survive. You were created to live. Choosing peace often requires letting go of people, places, habits, and beliefs that once defined your life. That is not failure. That is courage. Real courage is waking up after another difficult night and deciding to try again and again. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward while fear is still whispering in your ear. It is choosing hope when disappointment has become familiar. It is believing tomorrow can be different, even when today feels unbearably heavy. Some mornings you will rise with confidence. Other mornings you will rise only because giving up is no longer an option. Both are victories. Never underestimate the strength it takes simply to keep going. Some days healing feels like climbing a mountain. Every step feels exhausting. Every breath feels heavy. You wonder if you will ever reach the top. Then there are days when healing feels like taking one single step, getting out of bed, drinking a glass of water, answering one phone call, smiling at your own reflection. Do not dismiss those small victories. They matter. Take the step anyway. Because mountains are never conquered in one giant leap. They are conquered one faithful step at a time. Small progress is still progress. The seed beneath the soil appears invisible long before anyone sees the flower. Yet every day, unseen roots are growing deeper. Strength is developing where no one can applaud it. Your healing works the same way. Just because others cannot see your growth does not mean it is not happening. Some of your greatest transformations will happen quietly. In the private moments when you choose peace instead of panic, forgiveness instead of bitterness, and faith instead of fear. Do not measure your healing by someone else's timeline. Comparison steals joy. Comparison steals confidence. Comparison blinds you to the miracle unfolding in your own life. Someone else's chapter is not your chapter. Someone else's pace is not your pace. Flowers bloom in different seasons. The rose does not rush to become the sunflower. The sunflower does not envy the lily. Each blooms exactly when it was created to bloom. So do women. Your season is uniquely yours. Trust your season, even when it feels slow, even when nothing seems to be changing, even when you cannot yet see the beauty that is quietly unfolding. Trust the quiet work happening inside you. The strongest transformations are often invisible before they become undeniable. Character is being shaped. Wisdom is being planted. Confidence is taking root. Every difficult moment is teaching your heart how to stand a little taller than it did yesterday. Faith grows in places where certainty cannot survive. If you could already see every answer, faith would not be necessary. Faith is believing that the road ahead still holds purpose, even when the next step is hidden by uncertainty. Faith whispers, "Keep walking." Faith reminds you that darkness is never permanent. Faith teaches you that your greatest breakthrough may be waiting just beyond the struggle you are tempted to escape. And sometimes the strongest prayer is not long. It is not complicated. It is not perfect. Sometimes the most powerful prayer a woman can pray is simply, "I will not give up today." Those 6 words carry extraordinary strength because every time you choose not to give up, you choose healing. Every time you choose healing, you choose hope. And every time you choose hope, you become the woman your hardships could never destroy. Pain can wake you. It has a way of opening your eyes to truths you were never ready to face. It removes illusions. It reveals who stands beside you when the world grows quiet. It forces you to look inward and ask difficult questions. Pain can be a powerful teacher, but pain alone cannot change your life. Discipline transforms you. The lessons that pain introduces are only the beginning. What you choose to do after the tears dry, after the disappointment settles, and after the storm begins to pass, that is where transformation truly begins. Strength is not born from suffering alone. It is built by the daily decisions you make when no one is watching. A strong woman is not built by motivation alone. Motivation is wonderful, but it comes and goes like the weather. Some mornings you will wake up inspired. Other mornings you will wake up exhausted, discouraged, and uncertain. If your future depends only on how you feel, your progress will always be temporary. Discipline carries you when motivation cannot. Discipline whispers, "Keep going," even when your emotions say stop. It reminds you that your dreams deserve consistency, not convenience. She is built by the choices she makes when no one is watching. Character is never revealed on the stage. It is revealed in the quiet moments. It is revealed in the early mornings when no one applauds your effort. It is revealed in the late nights when you choose growth instead of excuses. It is revealed every time you keep a promise to yourself, even when breaking it would be easier. Wake up. Wake up to your worth. Wake up to your purpose. Wake up to the truth that your future is waiting on the decisions you make today, not someday. Every sunrise is another opportunity to become the woman you were created to be. Do not waste it by doubting yourself. Stand up. Stand up after rejection. Stand up after failure. Stand up after heartbreak. The strongest women are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who refuse to stay on the ground. Every time life knocks you down, rise with a little more wisdom, a little more grace, and a little more courage than before. Keep your promises to yourself. If you tell yourself you will begin tomorrow, begin tomorrow. If you promise yourself peace, protect it. If you promise yourself healing, honor that commitment. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens your confidence. Every promise you break teaches your mind that your own words cannot be trusted. Become someone your own heart can rely on. Ride when your mind says quit. Feed your mind with wisdom instead of worry. Read words that challenge you. Write stories that inspire you. Write truths that remind you of who you are. Knowledge changes perspective, and perspective changes destiny. Pray when fear grows louder than hope. There will be moments when anxiety tries to convince you that tomorrow holds nothing but uncertainty. Answer fear with faith. Speak to your Creator before you speak to your doubts. Prayer does not always change the situation immediately, but it changes the woman walking through it. It strengthens your spirit. It calms your heart. It reminds you that you never carry your burdens alone. Work when excuses knock at your door. Excuses are patient. They will always wait for you. They will tell you that tomorrow is a better day, that next week will be easier, that someone else has more talent, more opportunity, or more resources. Do not entertain them. The life you dream about is built one disciplined day at a time. Show up. Do the work. Repeat. Protect your peace. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every invitation deserves your presence. Peace is precious. Guard it carefully. Protect your time. Time is life in motion. Once it passes, You cannot ask for it back. Spend it on things that help you grow, not on distractions that leave you empty. Protect your dreams. Some dreams are too delicate to place in the hands of people who only know how to criticize. Water them with faith. Nurture them with action. Believe in them before the world does. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Your kindness should never require you to abandon yourself. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to walk away from relationships that constantly drain your spirit. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is wisdom. Discipline is self-respect in action. It is proving, through your daily choices, that you believe your future matters. It is loving yourself enough to do what is necessary instead of what is comfortable. Every healthy habit says, I believe I deserve better. Every morning you choose growth over excuses. You send that message to yourself. Every boundary says, my peace matters. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow and what you refuse to accept. Every act of consistency tells your future, I am coming. Not in a rush, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence, slowly, pardonably, powerfully. Because the woman who commits herself to discipline no longer waits for life to change her circumstances. She changes herself. And once she changes herself, she discovers something extraordinary. No hardship is stronger than a woman who has learned to master her own mind, honor her own worth, and walk every day with purpose, discipline, and unwavering faith. Some people will never apologize. That is one of the hardest truths life will ever ask you to accept. You may wait for the phone to ring. You may wait for the message that finally says, I was wrong. You may wait for someone to recognize the tears they caused, the trust they shattered, and the pieces of your heart they left behind. But that day may never come. Some people will continue living as though nothing happened. Some people will rewrite the story to protect their own conscience. Some people will never understand the damage they caused, not because your pain was unimportant, but because not everyone has the courage to face the consequences of their actions. If your healing depends on their apology, you have handed them the key to your freedom. You have given someone else the power to decide when your heart is allowed to heal. Take it back. Your peace should never be held hostage by someone else's choices. Your future should never be delayed because another person refuses to acknowledge the past. The greatest act of self-love is deciding that your healing belongs to you, not to them. Not to their words, not to their approval. To you, forgiveness is not pretending the wound never existed. It is not saying that betrayal was acceptable. It is not pretending that abuse, rejection, dishonesty, or cruelty did not leave scars. The wound was real. The tears were real. The heartbreak was real. Your pain deserves to be acknowledged. But forgiveness is choosing not to build your home inside that pain. It is refusing to let that wound control the rest of your life. Pain may visit your heart. It should never become its permanent address. You have cried enough over what cannot be changed. You have replayed the memories enough. You have questioned yourself enough. There comes a moment when healing gently whispers, you have suffered enough. Now choose yourself. Release the bitterness. Bitterness feels powerful in the beginning. It convinces you that holding on to anger somehow protects you from being hurt again. But bitterness is a heavy burden. It steals your sleep. It clouds your joy. It follows you into relationships that had nothing to do with the original wound. Soon you discover something heartbreaking. The person who hurt you may have moved on, yet you are still carrying the weight. Lay it down, not because it was easy, because it is necessary. Release the anger. Anger has its purpose. It reminds you that something valuable was violated. But anger was never meant to become your identity. If you feed it every day, it will slowly consume the peace you have worked so hard to rebuild. Do not allow yesterday's pain to become tomorrow's personality. Choose healing instead. Release the need to prove your worth to people determined not to see it. This is one of the greatest freedoms a woman can ever discover. Stop exhausting yourself trying to convince people to value you. Stop explaining your heart to those who have already decided not to understand it. Stop chasing acceptance from people who only recognize your absence after they have taken your presence for granted. Your worth is not a debate. It is not a performance. It is not something another person has the authority to approve or deny. You were valuable long before they recognized it. You remain valuable whether they ever recognize it or not. You cannot build a beautiful tomorrow while dragging yesterday behind you. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying heavy chains. Every step becomes harder. Every dream feels farther away. That is what unforgiveness does to the soul. It keeps your hands too full of yesterday to receive the blessings waiting for tomorrow. You deserve more than survival. You deserve freedom. Set it down. Set down the resentment. Set down the endless questions. Set down the burden of trying to understand why someone chose to hurt you. Some questions will never receive satisfying answers. Some endings will never make perfect sense. Accepting that truth is not surrender. It is peace. Not because they deserve peace. Because you do. You deserve mornings that are no longer controlled by old memories. You deserve laughter that is genuine. You deserve relationships that are not overshadowed by fear created by someone else's actions. You deserve a heart that beats with hope instead of resentment. There is extraordinary strength in walking away without revenge. Anyone can react. Few people can rise above. Revenge may satisfy the moment, but healing transforms a lifetime. The woman who walks away with dignity carries a strength that no act of revenge could ever provide. She refuses to let another person's darkness become the light that guides her own life. There is extraordinary wisdom in choosing joy over resentment. Joy is not forgetting. Joy is deciding that pain will no longer write the ending of your story. Joy is reclaiming your smile after life tried to steal it. Joy is believing that beautiful days still exist beyond heartbreak. Joy is courage dressed in peace. Freedom begins the moment your heart says, I will no longer carry what was never mine to keep. I will no longer carry their guilt. I will no longer carry their bitterness. I will no longer carry the weight of their choices on my shoulders. I choose peace. I choose healing. I choose hope. Because the strongest woman is not the one who never experienced pain. She is the one who learned to forgive, not to excuse what happened, but to free her own heart from chains it was never meant to wear. And from that moment forward, she no longer walks with the weight of yesterday. She walks with the quiet confidence of a woman whose heart has finally learned how to be free. Imagine the little girl you once were. Close your eyes for a moment and remember her. The little girl with curious eyes. The little girl who laughed without hesitation. The little girl who believed that the world was filled with endless possibilities. She trusted easily. She loved deeply. She dreamed boldly. She believed that kindness would always be returned with kindness. She believed that every promise would be kept. She believed she could become anything. Then life happened. Disappointments came. People changed. Hearts were broken. Dreams were delayed. The world taught lessons she never expected to learn. But listen carefully. That little girl never disappeared. She is still inside you, waiting, watching, hoping, praying that you never stop becoming. She is quietly cheering for every step you take toward healing. She celebrates every boundary you finally have the courage to set. She smiles every time you choose peace instead of chaos. She reminds you that beneath every scar still lives the woman you were always meant to become. Do not let her down. Become the woman who speaks kindly to herself. Too many women have mastered the art of encouraging everyone else, while quietly tearing themselves apart with their own words. You forgive others with compassion, but you judge yourself without mercy. That must change. Speak to yourself with the same gentleness you would offer a child learning to walk. When you stumble, do not call yourself a failure. Call yourself human. When you make a mistake, do not tell yourself you are not enough. Remind yourself that growth is never perfect. The voice you hear most often is your own. Make sure it speaks hope. Make sure it speaks truth. Make sure it speaks love. Become the woman who stands tall after rejection. Rejection has a painful way of making us question our value. It whispers that we were not chosen because we were not enough. Do not believe that lie. Sometimes rejection is not a punishment, it is protection. Sometimes the doors that close are making room for the doors that truly belong to you. Stand tall. Not because rejection did not hurt, but because your worth has never depended on someone else's decision to recognize it. You are not defined by the opportunities you missed. You are defined by the courage to keep moving forward. Become the woman who believes that every setback carries hidden purpose. Life has a way of planting blessings inside disappointments. At first, all you can see is the loss, the unanswered prayer, the broken relationship, the unexpected ending. But time has a beautiful habit of revealing what pain could not explain. Many of the moments that once felt like defeat become the very experiences that shape your wisdom, deepen your compassion, and strengthen your faith. Do not rush to judge the chapter you are in. The story is still unfolding. Trust that even this season is working for your growth. Become the woman who lifts another woman instead of competing with her. There is enough room for every woman to shine. Another woman's success does not diminish your own. Her light cannot steal yours. In fact, when women encourage one another instead of comparing themselves, something extraordinary happens. Strength multiplies, hope spreads, healing becomes contagious. Be the woman who celebrates another woman's victory with a sincere heart. Be the woman who offers encouragement when others choose criticism. Be the woman whose presence leaves people feeling stronger than they were before they met you. That kind of strength changes generations. Become the woman who chooses faith when fear feels easier. Fear will always have something to say. It will tell you that you are too late, too broken, too old, too inexperienced, too ordinary. Faith answers every one of those lies with quiet confidence. Faith says your past does not cancel your future. Faith says your scars do not disqualify your purpose. Faith says your greatest days may still be ahead of you. Choose faith again and again. Especially when the road is uncertain, especially when the answers are not yet visible, especially when all you have is one more step to take. Your journey was never only about surviving. Yes, you survived heartbreak. You survived disappointment. You survived loneliness. You survived seasons when you questioned your own strength, but survival was never the final destination. It was only the beginning. Your journey has always been about becoming wiser, learning lessons that comfort could never teach. Becoming kinder, choosing compassion even after experiencing pain, becoming fearless not because fear disappeared, but because courage became louder, becoming whole, discovering that your value was never determined by what happened to you, but by the strength with which you continued to rise. One day, someone will look at your life and wonder how you remained so strong after everything you faced. They will admire your peace. They will notice your confidence. They will be inspired by the grace with which you carry yourself. Smile, because they will never fully know what it cost. They will never know the silent battles you fought behind closed doors. They will never know the prayers whispered through tears when no one else was listening. They will never know the mornings you chose to rise, even when your heart begged you to stay in bed. They will never know how many times you chose hope over despair. How many times you chose faith over fear. How many times you chose forgiveness over bitterness. How many times you chose courage over comfort. How many times you chose love over resentment. How many times you chose to begin again when quitting would have been easier. And perhaps that is your greatest victory. Not that life became easy. Not that every wound disappeared overnight. But that through every hardship, every disappointment, every lesson, and every season of healing, you kept becoming stronger, becoming wiser. Becoming brighter, becoming the woman your younger self once dreamed she could be. And even when your heart was still healing, you chose to rise again and again, and that choice became the quiet, unshakable strength that no hardship could ever take away.